and then you hit her with another one instead of being like, oh, yeah.
You have some great like icebreakers, but then you have to transition to an actual conversation.
Yeah.
Good evening. Welcome to another video. So I've got a few of these reaction videos that I've been queued up and trying to get to. I actually recorded this one already, except that Windows Update decided that my audio settings weren't correct anymore, and they decided to change them for me. And didn't realize it until I went to edit the video, and there was no sound, which is always great. As luck would have it, though, this actually works out because the reaction videos that we're going to do today, there's a follow-up that I can add to it now, and so we'll get into that. So without that, let's get into it.
You made a monster.
Alright, so we're going to go into, this is Maxx Chewning. He's a friend of David De Las Morenas and his fiancée Julia. They do the How to Beast channel, which is one of the fitness channels that I watch quite often. And Max is one of their close friends. And here, this is a video where he was getting kind of dating tips from David and Julia. And I have it paused at the exact moment we need to for this whole story. There's a date that he went on, and this is actually how the date started. So it's a Bumble match, and we're going to see what his whole conversation starts as. And just so anybody, I'm not picking on Max here. I've made a lot of these same mistakes. A lot of guys have. This is mainly to look at the lessons learned that we can take from it, so that guys that are jumping in the dating market or still in the dating market, you can correct those lessons, correct those mistakes, so you're not making them over and over again and wondering why you're not getting good results. So without further ado,
I was gonna ask a question. Okay, so here's the last one because I only had about 5 matches. This one, this is a little special. I think this one for last. I responded on her thing. She said my love language is tequila.
Okay, so first off, if she's saying her love language is tequila, red flag. If she wants to drink that much, that's not somebody you want for any sort of relationship. Anyway, maybe a couple dates here and there, some Saturday night fun or whatever. But if she's that into drinking, not going to be good long-term relationship material. So she starts off with rocks her straight, and kind of a good icebreaker. Get into it, and he goes, "Oh gosh, see, I'm a frozen or straight kind of guy. Should we end this now before it begins, or can you get past that?" Now, that's a kind of a good one-liner, and I even made the comment on the video. It's like, he's very good at these one-liners, but the problem with these, they're good for applause lines. They're not good for continuing the conversation. He needed to follow that up with, instead of saying, should we end this before it begins, or can you get past that? It should be more along the lines of, maybe we should meet up on Friday to maybe you can convince me that I'm wrong. Kind of lead into, all right, yeah, we want to have a date. It's a fun way of asking her out. It's probably not something that she gets very often, so it's going to trigger in her mind and have you stand out. The problem is he runs it as a one-liner. Great, but it kills the conversation. How is she supposed to respond to that? And I believe David and Julia even mentioned that here in their analysis here. And then his follow-up is he waits a few days, it looks like about a week. So that happened on March 3rd, and on March 11th, he's like, this is what it feels like to be left on red. Now he sounds desperate because, number one, he came across, he double texted her because she didn't respond. So then later on, he sends another text. And two, he comes across sounding a little needy with this type of response. I know he's trying to be funny, but that's not how it's going to come across. It's going to come across as a little needy.
Mm-hmm. I responded, frozen or on the rocks, margaritas. She said, rocks or straight. I said, oh gosh, see, I'm a frozen or straight kind of guy. Should we end this before it begins, or can you get past that?
That's a good question. Did she respond?
No! That was a week ago, but...
See, I disagree with it being a good question. I think it's the first part of it is a good opener. But you got to use the opener to continue the conversation. You can't kill the conversation as soon as you open it up. And that's what this does, is it kills the conversation.
But I found this girl on Instagram, and she has like her own business and everything. And she's like attractive. I was like, I'm gonna reach back out, say something witty, okay? Yeah. I was left on. So what I said is this what it feels like to be left on red?
Nothing.
Look at Julia's face here, and she's like,
Is this? I thought it was funny. Is this what it feels like to be left on red?
Or she could be like, oh, this guy like really is butthurt that I didn't respond.
Exactly. That's exactly the problem.
I don't get these games they're playing.
I think it was good. I think there's also just like a certain percentage of girls are just gonna like not reply.
Yeah.
The other ones maybe could have been sweet. I think this was a solid. Again, your first message game's on point.
Yeah.
So, and I agree with David there that his opening is good. He doesn't have a good closing because he's not leading it to the right place. He's killing the conversation instead of using that to set up the date. Flash forward, we're going to jump to the next video.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to a brand new video. This one's going to be a little bit different. Not a vlog, no crazy edits. It's going to be relaxed. It's going to be a story time because I recently did something.
So I also want to pause here for a second. Notice, this is mainly for the guys that are in the MGTOW or black pill type community. They're saying that only money and looks are the only thing that matter. This guy is a pretty successful guy. He's got two of his own. I think it's two of his own businesses. If not, it's one business that he has two separate products that he sells. Pretty successful. They just got their own warehouse. A new warehouse that they're expanding. They're expanding their product line, doing shipment. Decent looking guy. He's in decent shape. He goes to the gym. He's got videos of him working out. I mean, he's not huge, but he's pretty ripped, and he's like I said, a decent looking guy with money. So you'd think that he, according to a lot of these guys that are in the quote unquote black pill community, that he would just be having girls line up for him. And you see in the story that this is not how it ends up, and the reason it doesn't go that way is because of, in all fairness, his game. His opening game is really good. His closing game, not so much.
That I don't normally do. I went on a date with a girl, a real one. And normally I would keep this kind of stuff private, but I was like, you know what? I'll tell the people because I mentioned that I was going to go on a date. So I was like, I gotta let them know how it went, right? Did I find love? Is she my girlfriend now? Oh my gosh, you can't wait to find out. So stick around, let's go. Okay, so we're gonna start from the very beginning. As you know, we are on dating applications, like Bumble, for example. Bumble's probably my favorite because I've been using it for the longest and it's like the cleanest interface, and I like how girls make the first move because I'm not gonna make the first move.
Which is a problem. I realize that the dating apps, are a different story, but the him not wanting to make the first move is going to come up later in this video, and that is a problem that he should want to address. But in terms of dating apps, I understand that you kind of want the girl to actually respond because a lot of times girls are using it for attention. Like Tinder, for example, if you message them, they're just like they're not gonna even read it because they're just looking for a whole bunch of likes. They go, oh yes, I've got 10,000 guys who liked my pictures, yay! And you don't respond to any of them. But where Bumble, if they respond to you, and send you a message, at least you know that they went through that trouble.
So anyway, we're on there, and I match with someone, right? She swipes right, I swipe right. It's the beginning of a love story. Taylor Swift could make a song about it. And then she sends me a message.
Notice that Taylor Swift could write a song about it. Taylor Swift doesn't write love songs. She writes heartbreak songs. So you don't want Taylor Swift writing a song about it. That would be bad. It means your relationship crashed and burned.
It has to do with margaritas. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I send a little witty reply back, and nothing. She doesn't say anything, and I'm like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, we already talked about why that was. When you kill the conversation, it's hard for things to continue on.
I match with some other people, don't get too eager, Max. A day goes by, 2 days go by, 3 days go by, a week goes by, and she still doesn't message me back, and I'm like, okay, what do you do? Do you move on? And I was like, she's attractive. Like, you know what? I'm just.
He asked the right question. Do you move on? Yes. It's that simple. You text her, she maybe responds once or twice, and then disappears. Move on. And the reason for that is the genuine desire is not there. If she really wanted to get to know you, she would make time for you. it's obvious at this point she is not making time for you, so move on.
Is this like an alpha thing? Maybe I'll message her again. I don't want to double text, but we're gonna do it. And I send her another message. I'm like, is this what it's like to be left on red? And
comes across as needy.
That continued to be on red. She still never responded to me. Okay, so she doesn't respond, and I'm like, Max, you know what, dude? Just move on, right? But then I was like,
Yes,
what would my
just move on.
mastermind course teacher tell me? He'd be like, follow your dreams, Max.
No. Follow your dreams in business, not, the one-itis thing. Don't chase a single girl if she's not interested in you.
So she has her Instagram linked, and I'm like, okay, is this super creepy? I find her on Instagram, and I'm like, you know, Max, just send her a message on here. Maybe she just doesn't check the apps or something, right? So I send her a message. It's in the afternoon at like 11 a.m., and then...
All right, so now not only has he double messaged her in the app, he's now basically stalked her online and sent her a message on her Instagram. So effectively, he sent the last 3 messages to this girl.
Hours go by, no response, no response. Didn't open it, no response. And then by the time I went to bed, I was like, if she hasn't opened this, by the time I wake up in the morning, I'm deleting it, and I'm just gonna, maybe I shouldn't have done this, right? And then I go to sleep, I wake up, and she opened it, and she replied. Okay, so when I see she responds, I'm like, Max, you did it. You're in, man. Don't screw this up like you always do. So throughout the day, we kind of chatted up.
The don't screw this up like you always do. If you have an abundance mindset, you're not worried about that. So what this tells me is he needs to spin more plates. He needs to date more.
I'm asking her questions about herself, what she does for work, and all that stuff. I'm like, all right, this is exactly what you're supposed to do, Max. Ask her questions. And then towards the end of the day, I'm like...
So it sounds like they're having very long conversations going back and forth between DMs. I would limit this because... One, that limits what you can talk about when you get on the date, because you've already had those kind of conversations via text, so you're not going to ask the same questions. And then you have to find something to talk about on the date. And it's very difficult to have a new conversation when you've had all the getting to know you conversations, but you haven't had it flow into a natural conversation about whatever, fun stuff is going on your date. So I would limit the number of text messages going back and forth, limit the amount, and then again, I made these same mistakes, back in my dating days. When I was doing it, the apps weren't around. It was like things like Match.com and eHarmony. I don't think I ever used that one, but those things were around, 20 years ago, and the same kind of problem. If you have all these conversations via message where you're not actually talking to the person, then when you actually, if they ever agreed to go on a date, then you have nothing to talk about, and it's a very boring date, or you end up drinking a lot, and then you don't remember most of the date, and that's not the kind of date you want to have on a first date anyway.
Like, okay, now it's time to make the move. I was like, hey, I would love to meet up, maybe grab a drink or something. If you're interested, here's my number. And I give her my number, and we hope for the best.
Again, it's not the way you want to go. There's ways that you can ask for her number. It's much easier to do it in person, in my opinion. But what he should have done is said, hey, would you like to get together and go out for drinks? And if she said yes, then you say, all right, great. Can I get your number? And we'll set up times. Ask for her number, not don't give her your number and expect her again to make the first move.
And then a miracle happens because I hear a distinctive sound on my phone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's her. I thought she was going to sell my phone number on the black market, but instead she texted me. And then I'm like, what do I say? All right, so I'm staring at my phone, and I'm like, Max, what do you do? What do you say? And I'm like, oh gosh, my palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, and I just spilled some spaghetti. No, that's not an Eminem lyric. I actually just eaten some spaghetti, and it got all over my shirt. But we started exchanging a couple text messages, and I'm like, Max, stop messing around. Just ask the girl out. So I'm like, hey, when are you free? And she says Thursday. So I'm like, Thursday.
So here's the other thing that I would do. Instead of saying, when are you free? Say, hey, are you doing anything Thursday or Friday this week? Give her, and you can do one or two choices. Don't leave it open, because if you leave it open, say, hey, when are you free? What day in the next, 2 weeks are you free? And I can accommodate my schedule for that. It means that in her mind, you're setting it up where you have nothing going on. So your schedule's wide open. You've got no other plans. You only have her, which is not what you want to be in. You want to be in a situation where she thinks you're busy, even if you're not. She thinks you're busy, so that you have things going on. And in reality, he is a pretty busy guy. He's got these businesses that he's running. He's got his YouTube channel. He's got, friends to hang out with, whatnot. He's got a lot that he should be doing. So you don't want to make it seem like you've got nothing going on.
Will be fantastic. I picked out this Mexican place that I'd never been to. It had really good reviews, good vibes, good margaritas. And then flash forward throughout the week, we're still talking, keep the conversation going. And then Thursday comes around.
So again, like I said earlier, the whole messaging back and forth, having conversations via text message or DMs, I would not do that because that limits your conversation that you're going to have on thing. You want to keep the text messages very brief, and you want to use them to set up dates. And when you get on the date, you want to be able to have these conversations that you would be having via text, and that way, you have it in person, and it's a deeper connection. She's going to end up have a deeper connection to you if you have them via, face-to-face conversation rather than via text, because she's not going to remember the text messages, but she will remember how you made her feel when you were asking those questions face-to-face.
Around, and it's date night. So, I take a shower, I make sure I smell super good, I go into my closet and I'm like, what will I wear? Do I dress up a lot? Do I put a button down on? What is she gonna be wearing? It's like a nice Mexican place.
Okay, so there are two things that I would note here. One is, if you're planning the date, you should give her some indication on how she should dress. Reason being, let's say that you were gonna do an activity, let's say you wanted to go rock climbing, and you're gonna take her with you. If you didn't tell her and she wears a fancy dress and high heels, then she's not dressed for the rock climbing adventure that you wanted to do, which means that your entire plan is out the window. Obviously, they're not doing that. But at the same time, I'm assuming that the restaurant, he's saying it's kind of nice. It should have some sort of reasonable dress code. So he should tell her, it's business casual or, just dress casual, whatever, but realize that she's going to dress to impress. So you should dress to impress. So he walks into his closet, what do I wear? You should always have a couple outfits, and when I was dating, I always did. I had about 5 outfits that any of those I could wear and I would look great in. And had my best friend, which she would help me pick them out when I was going shopping, make sure that I looked amazing in them, and went from there. But you should always dress to impress.
Place, but it's not like super nice, so I decide to keep it casual. I put on a nice Everford slub cotton tee. That's a premium.
Okay, so the Everford is his clothing brand, which I get. It's he's got a nice type of t-shirt, but it's still a t-shirt. Like I said, dress to impress. She's not going to be impressed by the fact that you're wearing your own brand t-shirt on a date.
Premium item, and then some chino pants, my Cartier bracelets, and some Cole Haan shoes, and I ordered an Uber, and I'm on my way. So our date is for 7:30. I get there about 5 minutes early because when you're early, you're on time. I wait in the front little lobby area, and then 7:30 rolls around, she's not there yet. 7:35 rolls around, she's not there yet. 7:38 rolls around, she's not there yet, and I'm starting to stress. I'm like, Max, congratulations, you just got stood up, my friend. Haha, you sucker.
So now, if she shows up, you should make it, and she doesn't have an excuse for being late, you should find a way to make her understand that that's not acceptable. If you let her get away with it, obviously it might end the date immediately, but she's obviously already showing that she doesn't have a whole lot of interest in you, because if she had interest in you, she would either have called and said, hey, I'm stuck in traffic and I'm running late, or she wouldn't have been late. So these are all these cues that show that she doesn't really have a genuine desire. She's just looking for company for the evening.
And then, against all odds, she walks through the door, and I notice 2 very distinctive things. One, she's actually the person that I matched with. I'm like, nice, I didn't get catfish. And number 2 is she looks amazing. She is wearing this one-piece dress thing, and then I look down, I'm wearing a t-shirt. I'm like, why did you dress so casual, Max?
Because you didn't tell her how to dress. So if you wanted to dress casual, you should have told her to dress casual so that you wouldn't be completely underdressed. And 2, you didn't follow the rule to always dress to impress, especially on I would say first 2 or 3 dates at the very least.
Okay, so where were we? Oh yeah, so we're having a great time, and then we order some food, and the waitress comes over, and she's like, what would you like to drink? And she orders a margarita. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in love already. And then I was like, all right, can I get a frozen margarita? And the waitress is like, oh, we actually only have on the rocks. And I'm like, okay, Max, play cool, man, play cool. Don't let her see you like this on the first date. And I was like, on the rocks. Yeah, no, I love on the rocks. Actually, can you just like make it extra on the rocks? So we get some drinks, we have a good time, we're chatting it up, we're drinking, and then the waitress comes back and she's like, hey, you guys like tequila so much, I know you enjoyed your dinner, would you guys like a shot? It's something that I really recommend. And we're like, yeah, what the heck, let's take a shot. So we take a shot, it was delicious, actually it's tequila, so it was pretty bad, but the girl actually recommended we do something different. Instead of the lime and the salt, we actually did an orange and a cinnamon. It was lovely. Like, I'd never had that before, but I was like, wow, she's like improving our drinking game. And we take the shot, and then the waitress comes back, and she's like, hey, we're about to close down the bar. Do you want another shot? And we're like, and I kind of look at her, I'm like, I don't want to be the one that's like, yeah, let's just drink a bunch of shots. But she's like, yeah, I'll have another one. And I'm like,
okay, so 2 things here. 1, don't drink a whole lot on a first date. Don't, and if your date is looking to get sloshed and is, already had a mixed drink and a shot and is looking to take another shot, that's a big red flag. 2, if the waitress asks, you probably should immediately step in and say, no, I think we're going to, go ahead, wrap up, close our tab so we can move on to the next part of our date, and not be hammered. That would be the correct answer. You're leading and you're avoiding getting sloshed as your first part of your date, or allowing your date to get sloshed on your date, which is, like I said, red flag. So lead the date and don't get hammered.
all right, pour them up, let's take another shot. Okay, so at this point in the date, we have both had 2 shots and a drink. I think we're feeling good, we're relaxed, we're having a good time, or at least I think we are. I'm saying a bunch of really funny things, and she's either laughing with me or at me, I don't know, but she's very interesting, and she has her own business, and I'm like, wow, this dating thing, isn't so bad. This girl's really cool. And then we somehow get on the topic of like bars we haven't gone to in Houston, and then there's one place called Wonder Bar, where we both had been wanting to go. It's brand new, and then we were like, hey, let's continue the night. Let's go check it out. And we go to the bar. All right, so we get to the bar and we order a shot, and then we...
So part of this comes from the fact that he didn't plan the date ahead of time. You should always have ideas on what you want to do in terms of activities for the date so that you can lead. So you can say, hey, all right, next up we're going to go do whatever the activity is. Preferably it's something that you think that she might like based off the conversations you've already had. And you might also want to have a backup plan if for some reason the original plan is not acceptable, or something happens, whatever. But if you are determining what to do on the date during the date, you are likely going to fail, because it's not going to be memorable for her. You're not leading the date. And here, this, even though he's saying that they both decided, it was kind of a spur of the moment type decision. And again, you're going into more drinking. You've already had 3 drinks, and now you're going to go to a bar. We're going to have more drinks on a first date.
Check out all the like weird things that it has to offer. We're walking around, we're having a good time, we're laughing. There's even like this big like jackpot thing where you can like spin this wheel, and if you get a jackpot, you win like a whole bunch of free drinks. Whatever. We're having a really good time. And then we go and sit and we talk for a little bit, and then we're like, hey, you want to get like one more drink? We go, we actually order another shot. We take the shot, and then I realize, hey, it's like almost like 1 in. I think we should maybe like wrap this up because I want to see this girl again. So I don't want to like, drink too much on the first night. So I'm like, hey, why don't we just call it a night? So we both agreed to go ahead and wrap the night up. I was like, hey, I had a wonderful time. And then she goes to get in her Uber, and then I pulled a move that I did back in the 9th grade. I give her a hug. Like a hug. I was like, do I give her like a kiss on the cheek, but then
Ugh. All right, so you want to handle this one of 2 ways. Either you want to not make a move at all, or you want to make a move and go in for a kiss. If you want to see her again, you want to make a move and go in for a kiss. If you don't want to ever see her again, you want to make no move. What he did is probably worse than making no move, because now he's effectively turned her off. Hey, I'm going to give you a hug, and now, placing myself in the friend zone, which is effectively what he did there. If you go in for the kiss and she rejects you, you have an answer already. You're not going to get a second date. She's not interested. You move on. You're not forcing her. You're going in for the kiss, and if she responds and kisses you back, that's what you're looking for, that's an indication that she's open to a second date. If you don't get that, you know that she's not into a second date, you move on. It's that simple. Going in for a hug, no. Middle school, that may have worked. When you're 31 years old, no. Make a move.
What if she like moves and it's super awkward? I was like, you know what? We'll just go safe. We'll play it cool. Like, I want to see this girl again. I gave her a hug, and I was like, I think that might have been the demise of the entire thing. I was like,
no, I think
bye. I had a great time. Get home safe. Text me. Get
not
home.
the deal.
You know, so make sure you get home safe. Sound like a parent there. Why did I say that? I don't know. I feel like that's what you should say. Like, I hope you get home safe, you know? So I get home and dude is all like, woof, Dad, tell me about your date. And I'm like, wow, she was great. I had a wonderful time. And then I gave her a hug at the end of it. And he's like, you did what? I'm like, yeah, I gave her a hug, man. But then I text her. I'm like, hey, I had a great time. We should definitely do it again. And then she responds and she's like, I also had a good time. We should definitely do it again.
Okay, so I wouldn't respond or wouldn't send her that text the same night that you just had the date. I would wait at least 24 hours so that everybody's sobered up, for one. She's had a good night's sleep. And then, again, use the text message to set up a potential second date.
And I go to bed and I'm like, I did it! So in the morning, we exchange a few text messages. We're talking about the night, and then she even sends me like a photo of her and her dog, and I'm like, whoa, a photo, this is more than words. We're moving so fast, what do I do? So I played it cool. I'm like, oh, like, hey, what are you doing today? She said, oh, I have a photo shoot for my business. And I was like, you know, hey, have a good time. Hope your photo shoot goes well. I'll talk to you later. Text me if you get bored.
Everything was okay up until that last sentence. Because, again, what he's saying in that last sentence is, I've got nothing going on, so if you decide you have nothing going on, I'm available to you. Instead, he should have just ended it with, hope it goes well, I'll talk to you later. Period.
And then I waited. And then it was afternoon. And then it was evening. And then it was nighttime. And then I went to bed. Then it was the next morning. Then it was the afternoon. Then it was evening, and she still had not texted me. So then 11:30 at night rolls around, and I'm like, you know what, Max? Just send another text. Just double text her. It's not really double texting when, 30 hours has gone by. So I say, rumor has it, she never got bored. Kind of like hey, remember me? Maybe you, meant to send a text, but you didn't.
So, two things here. One, he's already sent a text before it came across as needy. This is another one that's going to come across as needy. And two, if she meant to send a text and didn't, again, that means that she doesn't really have a genuine desire. If she was really wanting to get to know you, really wanting to spend time with you, she would have found a few minutes to text you. She would have been looking for that few minutes to text you or message you or give you a call. That's what you want, is her desire to get to know you more. Not, oh crap, that guy I meant to text, I forgot to text him for 3 weeks. That shows no desire to actually get to know you, no desire to enter into your frame, and that's a next move on.
And then she sends a text back, and she's like, haha, no, I'm just I went back to Houston. I'm like, what? What? And she's like, yeah, I'm going back to Wonder Bar. That was the bar that we went to, by the way, for the first time, and had a really good time. And then I gave her the hug, and then I was kind of expecting maybe she'd invite me out, but.
So, no, she's not going to invite you out, because if she's going back to the bar, that means she's going on another date to the bar, or she's meeting a guy at the bar.
She didn't, so I was like, hope you get the jackpot. And then she didn't respond. And then I went to bed. And then I woke up and she was like, haha, I did hit the jackpot. I'm not hungover. And that was it.
Okay, so that's not the conclusion, because as I mentioned, I had recorded a previous analysis of these two clips, and because of fate, as it would have it, with Microsoft Windows updating and then changing all my audio settings on me without me noticing, he actually posted a follow-up. So we're going to jump to the follow-up now.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what she said, but before I do, I saw some comments that are like, Max, she didn't respond to your dating app message, but then all of a sudden responds to your Instagram DM. That's because you have a blue check mark, you're verified, and you have a large following, and then all of a sudden she wants to go on a date. She's just clout chasing, and now she's only texted you back after you make a YouTube video about her. Guys, I don't like to have that mindset, because if I did, that means I could never talk to any girl that doesn't have a large following or is an influencer, because then she's only talking to me, not because she's actually interested in me, but just because she can benefit and gain.
See, I didn't get that impression based off of how you described the story. I know some people will always look at that. The impression I got was that she didn't have a date that night and was bored, and he was available because he had messaged her like 3 times without her responding. And then when somebody probably sent her the video that he made, and she's like, oh crap, I'm being talked about indirectly. And yeah, she probably felt a little guilty and probably wanted to try and, find a way to put it back on him as to why they aren't going on a second date.
Followers or whatever, and like I feel like you guys are trying to protect me, and I appreciate that. You're like, Max is our boy, okay, we must protect him, don't you hurt him, I don't know, I like to think of the good in people, so I don't think this way, but regardless, let me tell you what she said, okay? Hey, so one of my friends sent me your video, and I just want to clear the air. I didn't get bored, but I got super busy, and I didn't even make it out to the Wonder Bar that night. Haha, sorry. I should have.
Alright, so the girl that's interested in you, it does not matter how busy they are, they can find a couple minutes to text you or give you a call. When my wife and I met, when we first started dating, she was working between 10 and 12 hours a day at a car dealership. She would find a few minutes here and there to send me a message. That despite they could be slammed all day long, she could have customers lined up. She would find a couple minutes and be like, hey, we're slammed at work. We're gonna have to push the date back. Can we get together for dinner tonight? It's probably gonna be closer to 11, whatever it was. She would find the time. So saying that she's super busy, to not have a few minutes or even a couple seconds to say, hey, thinking about you, would like to have a second date, whatever. That shows that she's not interested.
Have communicated that better. I would definitely still like to see you again, though, if you're down. And my original thought when she sent this was, I'm just not going to respond. But then the next morning I was like, you know what, I don't want to do to her what I felt she did to me. And I was just like, hey, hopefully you didn't get too weirded out by my YouTube mode, and I assumed you just had stuff come up. It's all good. I didn't reply to the actual hang out again part of her text message, because I feel like if almost 2 weeks go by and then you're like, hey, hey, I got super busy, but I'd still want to hang out. I like to assume that, people are good, and she could have had a lot of things going on in her family or her work. But in my head, in the back, I'm just like, 2 weeks, you could have sent some sort of message if you were interested in seeing me. But again, I don't know what she had going on. You just never know. You never
know, but it's one of those things where if she had something important, like she had, a family member die or get sick or whatever, then she could at least said, hey, loved our date, would like to get together again. I've got some family issues for the next couple of weeks. It's going to tie up my time. I'll give you a call when I get back. Doesn't take more than 20 seconds to send that text. It shows interest in him. What she did by not sending anything for 2 weeks is, hey, you're my backup plan. When I've got nothing going on and I've got no dates lined up, I can give you a call and you're lined up. And part of that's because he left the impression that he has nothing going on with the way he was responding, and the fact that he was double, triple texting. But what he's really needs to look for, and what you guys need to look for, is the genuine desire cues. If she's interested, she will find a reason to message you and find time to message you or give you a call.
Never want to assume, so I like to think the good in people, but for me, I'm just like, Max, I think it's not really worth putting more energy into this situation. So that is the conclusion to the story. It's gonna be weird if she watches this video.
No, that is the actual conclusion to the story, because I don't imagine there's gonna be a follow-up to that. So with that, there are, I'm gonna say, 6 major lessons learned from this whole situation. And again, like I said, I'm not picking on Max. It's just that he's describing a story that a lot of us, especially those of us who have been married for a while, we all went through this at some point. Maybe not with the Bumble apps and Tinder apps because they didn't always weren't around a decade ago, but the overall practice is still the same. So one, use text messages, and that includes DMs and Facebook messages, all that other nonsense, emails. Use those very sparingly to set up dates. You want to have those personal conversations about your family, about your hobbies, your interests, and whatnot. You want to have those in person because you can make it more memorable by having that physical interaction, and you can introduce the humor. He could have showed his humorous side. It's a lot easier to do that in person than it is over text messages or text or emails. So do that. The girl, there's a saying, a girl will never remember what you did. They'll always remember how you make them feel. If you make them feel good on a date, they'll remember that. That's what you do. Number two, as I mentioned, dress to impress. It doesn't matter really what she's wearing. You want to look your best. That means I'm not wearing this on a first date. This is not what I'd be wearing. I would have a nice collar shirt. I'd probably button down a couple if it was more casual place. I'd have the sleeves rolled up if it was more casual. If it was a nicer place that I was taking her, or a nicer date, I would kind of wear like a suit with no tie. But whatever it is, dress to impress. Make sure it fits you. Make sure it's nice. And you really want to... I don't want to say you can't overdress, because obviously wearing a tux on a first date is overdressing. But if you are dressed better than she is, that's not a problem. Now, if you spent more time on your hair than she did, that might be a problem. But if you are looking better in terms of your overall clothing game, then that's not a major problem. You don't mind looking better than she does. You do mind not looking as good. You don't want to walk into a date where you're wearing a t-shirt and she is dressed to the nines. Especially in your first couple dates, limit your alcohol. I would say that I would have stopped it after the mixed drink and the shot on the dinner portion. I would not have gone to a bar on a first date after having a couple drinks at dinner. I would have done something a little more personal. My wife and I, on our first date, we went to an Italian restaurant, and then we went down the street and bowled. We had a couple drinks while we were bowling, but it was I think it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon or evening when we went on our date. So the bowling alley was not packed, so it was allowed us to have something physical that we could do, a little competitive, and we were off on the side in our own lane where we could talk, have a couple drinks, have a couple appetizers, and just enjoy each other's company. And that's really what you want to do. You could also do something like Max could probably do some like a rock climbing type trip or rappelling type thing, something physically active, because that allows him to show off his strength a little bit. You kind of want to do something that allows you to show your assets, and I don't mean your cash. I mean your physique that you've been working on. Because if you're in the gym, you don't want to hide that under your clothing all day. You want to kind of show out something that demonstrates that you're in good shape, and go from there. I think Houston's a little far away from the beach, but if you're on a coastal area, you might even just go for like a walk on the beach, and maybe go for a swim. If you have your swim stuff, or if she's open to those ideas. Lead the date is the fourth one. Again, if you're looking to her to defer on when the waitress comes over and says, "Hey, do you want another drink?" If you're looking to her to make the decision, you've already lost. You need to know what that answer is going to be before the waitress comes over and asks the question. And you should also have an idea on what you're going to do for the next phase of the date. For the first 3 or 4 dates with my wife, I had everything planned out. I knew exactly what we were doing. I knew when. The only thing I didn't know was when, at certain days if she was working, if we would be able to start on time. So I had to kind of plan flexibly, and be a little agile with my planning there into what we were doing, because obviously some things were closing, at certain times. So I couldn't say, "Hey, we're going to go play laser tag," And if she got off at 11, laser tag's closed. So always have an idea on what you're going to do on the date, but don't be rigid about it. Make sure you're a little flexible and adjust accordingly. And then at the end of the date, go for the kiss. As I mentioned, if she rejects you when you go in for the kiss, you have your answer. But the whole idea is you're going for closure. You're looking for the answer. You don't want to get in your head and wonder, like he did I screw things up? Whatever. Go for the kiss. If she rejects you, you know that a second date is probably not on the table. If she gives you, if she responds and kisses you back, you know that a second date is probably on the table. If you don't do that, then you have a big question mark and you're left in a situation likely where she may have wanted a second date, but now you've kind of turned her off because you didn't make a move, and she now views you as more friend material, and you, again, put yourself there. She didn't put you in the friend zone. You put yourself in the friend zone because you didn't make a move. And finally, and probably most importantly in this whole scenario, is pay attention to cues of genuine desire. If she doesn't respond to, doesn't call you back, doesn't text you back, whatever, for days or weeks, she's not interested. There was a movie several years ago, it's like, he's just not into you. The whole idea was why girls are getting ghosted by guys. Really, it's funny because that doesn't really happen all that often. For the guy, it happens a lot. It doesn't happen for the girl, rather. It happens a lot for the guys, especially in these dating apps. So if you are not getting a response, and 2, 3, I would say even a day goes by, but especially 2, 3 days go by, a week, 2 weeks, whatever, don't keep hitting her up and saying, hey, you haven't responded. Hey, you haven't responded. One, that shows you're needy, which is going to turn her off. And 2, if she was interested, she would have responded already. It's that simple. So take the hint and say, hey, look, if she hasn't responded, she's not interested, move on. So with that, I do wish Max the best of luck, but I hope that you guys can take those lessons learned and apply them yourself so that you can have more success in the dating game. But I ended it here today. Hope you enjoyed tonight's video. If you did, please leave me a like, thumbs up, turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. And as always, keep improving.